Okay, members, you're welcome to this lesson, and we are going to focus on how to use data that we have, or we are taking an example of the data that is available that you have opened, and that data we're going to see how to run pivot tables using this data, and also learn how to create graphs using the very data, and at the same time learn the third thing is to learn how to run regressions. Now that the data is open with you, we are going to start with running the pivot table. Now, running a pivot table is like an ordinary table which should have the data that you want. And the pivot table we are going to run is one which is going to capture courses and their summary. You can see in the column for courses here, the courses are repeated. Yeah, but now we can know how many students are doing BBA HRM, and then also know how many students are doing BBA in public relations, this is PL, and others. To do that in a summary way, we're going to come and create a pivot table. To create a pivot table which has a summary of courses, we come under insert, we go under insert. So hopefully you've clicked insert. Under insert, we say you will see a word pivot table. So when you click pivot table, sometimes it selects your data automatically, but if it does not select the data, then there is a pop-up file there is a pop-up message, a window that is displaying, that there is a window that is displaying. Under that window that is opening, click pivot table. When you click pivot table, there is a window that opens that has table stroke range. Yes.
But you initially selected this one. I haven't selected this one.
Yeah, there are two ways you can do the pivot table. You can first select your data and then click pivot table up there, or you click pivot table, then where there is table stroke range, there is where you click. When you click there, you can now highlight. For example, if it had not highlighted before, you can now highlight the data.
This data is given already, right?
Yeah, this data we have it already.
My location, it doesn't show the location. Yeah.
So if you want the data, there is another one down below that very pop-up window. Down there, there is where you choose where do you want the pivot table to be placed. So I'm saying in the existing sheet, I don't want it to go elsewhere. In the existing sheet, that's where I want the pivot table to be placed. And where specifically, you will see the word location down there. Location means where the pivot table will be placed. So I click where there is location and select. I click where there is location, and then
You use it that one. That existing sheet.
You select, you highlight the data you want. So location, when you're highlighting that data, you make sure that there are no blanks, that the data should not have blank spaces. So it should be fully filled. Where there is space, you fill there. So now we are going to say we have highlighted the table stroke range, already highlighted. Now, where do you want the pivot table to be replaced, to be placed? We are selecting, for me, I'm selecting somewhere here, like selecting a space up there, where I want the pivot table to sit. So I want my pivot table to sit there. Then I say, okay, let it sit there. When I hope we are moving together, people online. Okay. Click where you want the pivot table to sit. There. Say okay. But the data range is not okay. This one. Is it okay? Highlight it. Oh no, you highlight it. Okay, so I think that time is sufficient for you to you've been able now to have a pivot table field displaying on your computer. So that pivot table field that you have there, when you click else outside it, there is a field that goes away. When you click within the pivot table, for example, this one is telling me pivot table 1, there is another table which has pivot table field. That pivot table field displays there in the corner somewhere. Pivot table field. Yes. In that pivot table field, now we are going to create the table, the pivot table. We are going to create a pivot table which has course as our rows.
So we choose course.
We have just gone to course, picked it, and dropped it under rows. You can go to it. Yes. You drop it and under rows. Yes. You see now you've created the rows for courses. Mm.
The second? I did it the second.
محمد اختار احمد يا مبارك اختار هنا courses. إذا عملت كليك courses كليك.
This one is
هنا ده كده كذا. صغار.
still.
For the second?
So that one has displayed now the summary of courses. You remember the other list is longer because some of these courses are repeated by each student. So it is giving us the summary of all the courses there. Now, after you have done that, we can also count how many courses how many students are in each course, because you know that our data here, each student has a course he's taking and the scores is getting out of 30, out of 70, and has a random number, a student. So the courses we have here, could even run it and place it up. The courses we have here, we can also want to know how many who are in these courses are, how many students are in these courses. But we can do that by counting courses. When we count how many courses, we shall know how many students are in each course. Now, the pivot table field that you see here has filters, columns, rows, and values.
This is when you click here.
The pivot table fields that we have it's okay. Has the pivot, when you look at your pivot tables fields, okay, there is down there where you see filters, columns, and also rows and values. Are you seeing this?
Okay, yeah.
If you want courses to be counted, not just to be listed as names, you drop them under values. So you want the values for the courses. So
Okay.
you carry it,
All of it.
all of it, and drop it under values.
Which one?
Courses.
Courses. The courses.
You put it under value.
Okay.
Yes.
Count of the course. The
Okay.
value gives a count. Okay.
No.
Mine are showing me they are 100 and yours are 109.
I think we're using different tables.
Yeah, possibly.
100
So
and 9. Yeah, the same.
it's okay. People table. You have created it. This one was there.
It was there. I need to do it.
Okay.
Okay, so the pivot table you have here, you can drop this here, rows. You can also drop it as values. Drop it as values. That one. So you've created a pivot table that counts for you how many students are in BBAF, BBABF, like that. That is now the principle is that each of the headings in the table, when you create a pivot table, they become pivot table fields. Which pivot table fields you can move them. If you want a row, for example, the row, another row having gender but also courses are there, you can see that the 9, for example, you have if you carried gender and dropped it under a row down there, you'll have
Under rows. Okay. Under rows. Okay.
if you want it to be below it,
Under row, under rows.
yeah, we don't
Which the genders, huh? The genders.
so enlarge it. Make it big so it can go on top.
Okay.
It can also go big.
Okay.
So if I dropped another code gender below courses, you can see how my table looks. But again, when I move gender above courses, I just move it above course, but in the same rows, you will see the table keeps on changing. Now, when gender is on top, you will see that it is telling you how many females are doing.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. You can move it also above. You can move gender above courses. Just where they are there.
Yeah.
You can hold it and drop it
Yes,
just
yes,
above
yes.
courses.
When you put it above courses, you can see then the numbers, the number of female and male.
Female and male
Yes.
that make up the 60, the total.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm.
So,
Mm, yes.
so when it's a change, up and down, it's giving what? When I put
Wilber,
Male, female.
when I put this one here, it gives me
Yeah, that is, yes, that is for you to see how data can be. You can play around with your data depending on what you want. Yes, you are asking a question online.
Wilber, how are you? I think I lost a step here. I have learned this, but there's something I missed when you're creating a pivot table, right? When you tap pivot table, it asks you to select a table range. Well, what's the answer to the table range?
The table range, you click where the table starts. Okay, and highlight all that field that has the data up to the bottom. Are you doing it?
Just the place that has the data. Okay, yes.
You highlight up to the bottom of that data.
It's saying the pivot field name is not valid. To create a pivot table, we must use data that is organized. Ah.
Okay.
Have you able to catch it yet?
So have you been able
Are we
to
catch it yet?
select the data?
Even me, I'm with Akumba, I'm with James, I'm at that step.
Okay. Then where do you see where you want the data to sit or to be placed in your sheet? You can select where you see existing sheet. Existing sheet.
But did you
Yes.
select the numbering also?
Numbering.
Yes.
It's okay. You can select the numbering as well.
When you
Cover all the what? The data.
This is a step before this, right?
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Okay. So now, any data you want to be a column, you drop that heading, or what you call that field, under columns. For example, if I wanted to see student scores cuts out of 30 in terms of columns, I would drop it cuts 30 under columns to see. You can see now that you have students who are scoring 20. There is 0, 21 1, but most students are scoring 5. 23 out of 30, 5 are scoring what? 5 female are scoring 5. You see that? Because I wanted to translate cats as columns. But if we want it to be a row, you drop it under rows. Columns. Those are coursework, I think. That's how you move, depending on what you want. You can drop either as a column or as
Okay.
you can drop it as a column or into rows. This one. I think the one we are having is another. But if you dropped it here, but just in case you don't want that field to be in any of those places you've dropped them, you just go where it is. For example, I'm going here where there is courses in columns and removing it. I'm carrying it away, dropping it back. You just drop it back.
Okay. This one from the column, drop it back
to the fields up there. If you don't want it, go carry it, drop it back.
Yeah.
Yes,
Return back.
it goes away.
It goes away. Okay.
Anything you don't want, you can drop it back.
Why still I
Just
can
like
see
the
the
player
count
on
first?
Sorry?
Get you.
Why is this in this one?
It's because you've only left count. There is nothing to
Yeah. In rows.
the rows and columns.
Okay.
If I wanted to know how many female and males are there, then gender would be my row. Then count gender, I can count gender, drop gender into values.
Value, it will give us the number.
You are counting gender, so you make sure gender is the row, and also gender is what is in values.
So I can even take it from here.
Yeah, you're creating two counts. Count for gender and count for that is how you can handle pivot tables. With pivot tables, we see that the fields, when you select pivot table and then select the data which you want, just to create a review, within 5 minutes. The review we have done that if you have any data, you go under insert. That's where you find pivot table in Excel. Then you highlight that data you want.
In the insert, I go where? After I go
Insert. You'll see pivot table here
Okay.
in the corner. But maybe to someone who is beginning, you first highlight the data you want the pivot table to use.
And can I highlight like only one column or the whole?
You can highlight all the data. Of course, you will keep selecting from it which fields you want. Yeah. Then when you select this data, the characteristics of this data should be that the data does not have spaces. For example, here, if there is no female,
It will not work.
it will count that as a blank space, asking itself, is this, what is this? Yeah, it will tell you when you, for example, you are counting, it will count blank one, then female and male, like a number. Yes, because they cannot categorize that data. That's why we advise that the student fills the whole data to make it filled up. Even where there's 23 here and I remove the 23, that space is blank. But I just make sure if it is having a 0, I put 0 so that it is countable. But I want to maintain that 23 that has been there. So what we are saying, to create a pivot table, you highlight all your data. After highlighting it, go to insert, then select pivot table. Of course, where you see table stroke range will display there. You've already selected that. That what comes up there has no problem. Then I say, where do I want to place the report? I want to place it not in the new sheet, but the one I'm looking at now, existing sheet. Then I click under location. After clicking under location, I also click where I want the table to be placed. Then I select OK. So the pivot table field will be there. Then I start to look at what do I want? What do I want to be the rows? If I wanted rows to be gender, I place them as rows. Then if I wanted to know how many are female or male, I drop the very gender under values. What you place under values is mostly if they are words, it is automatic that will be just counted. But if they are numbers, it is automatic that they will be summed. However, you can also create a count of those. What you can also change if they are numbers, like cards here were numbers, and I want to be counted. I'll just say, click there, that little triangle, and say values. Yeah. Then I select, instead of sum, I select count. Then I click OK. It will also count them for me. Then they will come here to be counted. Counting coursework, and out of 30. I've dropped coursework out of 30 in the value field, and it has automatically just summed them.
So now we found that course out of 30.
Yes.
I drop it under
Wilber.
under value or under course.
Yes.
Under value.
You speak.
No, I was asking, where do you get the fields? My pivot table field doesn't show those course, gender, exam fields. Where? So I can't find them to drag them.
You click where you see pivot table field. Where you click here, or Turn on pivot
I click
table
where?
field. When you click where you see turn on pivot table fields,
I don't see that.
it means that you have not yet created the pivot table, right?
Because I highlighted and did all the locations and everything, I okayed. But so I have that box of pivot table fields, but the fields, the ones you're dragging or ticking, I can't see them on mine.
Okay, I'm going to unshare. Just let me conclude this one. I'm going to unshare. Then you'll share what you have.
Okay.
Okay. So members, you can do a setting. For example, marks, scores. You can see female, male. Better if they are scores already. You can understand them by counting or by average.
So Wilber, I missed this one. Here it's some minus some versus count. Why?
Yeah,
I click here. What should I do?
if you want to change, you go to where they are saying sum. You say value field setting.
Okay. This is too complicated.
Then when you click it, you say count, or if you want average, average. If you want maximum, like that. But if you want average, you select average. Okay. Then there will be average. These ones, the average for female is that. For male, possibly the average is almost the same.
So we click here, and then I go to average here, and then I click on.
Average.
Mine is not half it. Some 200.
And that will be average. If you want maximum, which one has the biggest? Okay, members, I would like to close this session here. And then we are going to come back with another session, which is dealing with graphs. So thank you for
Wilber,
being online.
you said I will share.
Yes, I'm telling some other people, our other colleagues who are online, that are going to use this tutorial.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.